like children in the dark, we'll lay beneath the stars. At least we'll finally know that if we have to be, we don't have to be alone. She's just like me, little shady, tired lately. She's a little bit crazy. She's just like me, little shady, tired lately. She's a little bit crazy. She's just like me, driven by the ancient fire, riding on the ocean waves, looking for a light on somewhere. She's just like me, turning to the sunlight choir, looking for the warmth she craves, lost in the middle of nowhere. If you can find my love, tell her I'm alive. I've been looking blind, like a child in the dark. If you can find my love, tell her we can share my heart, hold each other blind, children in the dark. Won't be blind, like children in the dark, children in the dark, children in the dark. Won't be blind, children in the dark, children in the dark, children in the dark. Won't be lost at sea, we won't feel like we are incomplete. Finally come to realize our peace, and maybe that's a little bit naive. Was I led astray, seeking treasure in a lonesome maze, thinking love will come along someday? that carries them has kept me astray. Too soon to act on it, can we ever be? That all depends on what you're feeling from me. Let me show you all the way. Let me show you all the ways.
What is up, everybody? It's Friday. We started off with a little bit of a rough start here. Let the countdown finish before we swap over to that cool. Yeah, I was almost with the drop again. That happened like last Science Friday, where we got the swap from that title screen to now with the drop of the song. So that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool timing. I apologize about the rough intro today. We're a little late, a little behind schedule. I did have some technical difficulties. It was similar to last time as well, where I was having webcam problems, and before I went live, I was having webcam problems, and I had to solve them. But it appears that we have solved them now, so everything looks good. And before we start diving into today's topic, I'm really happy we're going to talk about it, because I'm getting back to the roots of Science Friday, and I'm going to explain what that means in a second. Before we start with today's Science Friday, though, I want to make a couple of announcements. Let me write something down to myself. Okay. So today we started a little rough, and I just wanted to mention that for anyone that might have been thrown off by this, if you were here at 5 and then came back later, or anyone that's a little bit like wanting to be more in the loop, if you were looking forward to the Science Friday, I'm not saying people are, but I just want to keep reiterating or keep reminding the stream that on my page here, I'm going to drag this over here, on the page sharkparty twitch.tv/sharkpartygg, I have the live feed of Twitter there. You don't even have to follow me on Twitter. And here's where I was tweeting, hey, I tweet out what we're going to be talking about that same day. So I tweet that before every single stream for Taco Tuesdays and Science Fridays. They're being twatted or tweeted. I don't know the past tense of tweeting. They're being tweeting. They're being tweeting out there, or tweeted. I don't know. But I tweet them before the streams. And so today I did have technical difficulties, and I tweeted that too. And so that's just to give the stream a heads up, like, hey, we're gonna be a little bit behind here. So I just wanted to mention that that's available at any time. You don't even have to follow me. I'm not asking for follows or likes or whatever Twitter functions. I'm just using what's up, SBS? I'm just using Twitter just to have just to be able to connect with you all when we're not live, or in any sort of medium where we can talk live. So Twitter allows me to just post updates hours beforehand, or even in the minute, just to say, hey, we're falling behind. And today that was the issue. We had some technical difficulties, and now it's solved. The second thing I want to say is that you can also join the Discord and talk to me this way. I also put out what we're going to be talking about on Discord. I'm going to move my camera a little bit down. I feel like I look like I'm a little kid in a giant seat. So on the Discord, if you actually click this, it sends you an invite. Yeah, doesn't it? I did this on purpose. This is from Thailand. I have to give credit where credit is due. But yeah, this is from Thailand. It does look like Shark Party merch. So anyway, I do want to mention that if you click on this badge right here, we can actually click on it. We can see that you will get an invite. So I'm already part of the Discord, but you'll get an invite to a Discord. And in this Discord, let me drag it over here. Here is where I'm not tweeting. Here I'm just posting what we're talking about as well. And there's a lot of channels. It's very new. I don't have the time right now to be building this and making it the community I wish it could be. I really have a lot of aspirations for the Discord channel and for the Twitch channel. I have a lot of vision for it, or whatever you want, dreams for it. Right now I just don't have the time or energy to be putting it in. But slowly we're getting there, little by little. But this channel is also through the help of also members of this community. It's been able to be somewhat built, and so we do have already channels there. I've already communicated with people. There's even citation channels, so sometimes I'll post some citations from the chatting of Science Fridays or Taco Tuesdays, and you can just quickly grab these, Google them, and read the articles yourself. So you can get access to some science here. It's pretty cool. So that's all I wanted to mention. So if you want to have access to the Discord, and you can also message me on Discord, and I can message there in a faster way, that's cool. But I just wanted to say, yeah, we have the Twitter feed here and we have the Discord available. Now, back to the intro. So today we're going to be talking about sleep, and sleep is a very, very cool topic. I think it's, at least for the people I'm around, it's been kind of a popular topic. There's a book that just came out, or not just came out. There's a book that's my wife actually told me about. She informed me about it, and now I've heard it from different people. It's a really good book. It's called Why We Sleep. So I think it might be on people's minds, but if not, I think today's topic is a good topic to talk about because sleep, we all do it, and so um, understanding why we need it, I think, can be helpful. To your daily life if you are one of those people that feels like they lack sleep. Now, the reason I mentioned at the beginning of the stream that we're going back to kind of like the roots of Science Friday is I attended a talk today on sleep. And I'm going to pull it up on my phone. I took the picture of the title, and I just want to read it off here. The title of the sleep was called Sleep is Not a Luxury, Links Between Sleep, Cognitive Function, and Health. And so that's what we're going to be basically talking about. Now, I'm not going to tell you exactly what the scientist there that was presenting. She was a really great presenter. She was presenting her own research. So that's why it's very cool that I get to attend these things because I get to hold on. This is freezing up on me. I get to attend these things because I get to hear about these data firsthand. Like this is science that's happening right now. So it won't reach the general public for like 3 to 4 more years. Like if groundbreaking news comes out in the scientific field, but if it's like really huge, then it might hit the news relatively quickly. But a lot of this research, there's so much of it being done every single day that it won't hit the news until way later, or you might not even learn about it until way, 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 way later. Because of just it's going to sit in published articles and which average citizen is going out there, average civilian is going out there and just going to the library and looking at scientific journals across all the disciplines and trying to keep up with all of modern science. Well, no, not really anybody. I don't even think that's possible to keep up with absolutely every single discipline. And so by the time we actually get to learn about these things, it might be a lot later. So it's very cool that I get to sit there and listen to this talks, and so that inspires today's talk, and that's where Science Friday was born. Science Friday was born because I myself, as a graduate student, have to attend, or I do attend, I don't have to, but I attend talks every single Friday. And at these talks, there's researchers from all around the world, from all different types of backgrounds, but it tends to be, well, not, I don't want to say all different types of backgrounds, because it is focused on psychological and brain sciences, so that's what I'm studying, and so all the research I listen to is on psychological and brain sciences. So it's not like I'm listening to physics professors. I mean, I do have the option as a student at a university to go listen to them if I wanted to. I just don't have the time or the cognitive capacity to do so because I'm doing my own PhD in my own stuff in neuroscience, and so there's a lot to learn and like time and energy needed to be doing that. So sleep. Where should we start? What's up, SPS? Where should we start with sleep? There's a couple of questions we can ask. So the name of the stream was, well, why do we need sleep? But then the second question is, what is it? So sometimes it can be helpful to understand what actually sleep is before we start to tackle, well, why do we need it? Because the why question is to me, it's one of the most interesting questions a human can ask is why. That's science attempts to answer that. Science actually attempts to answer two major questions: why and how. What is a more direct question that science can answer a lot, but yeah, the why and the how. The bed. What about the bed? I don't understand this bed. Should we talk about what is sleep? Let's pull up some sleepy McSleepersons. So this is the other thing I'm going to mention to anyone that's newer to the channel. What I like to do when we learn about stuff and when we talk about stuff is I like to just start fresh. I don't rehearse any of this. Sometimes we talk about topics that I'm not an expert on. I have like approximate knowledge. Sometimes I feel like that meme that shows like a dragon. It's like I have approximate knowledge about a lot of things. I feel like that way in certain aspects. That's where we should start. The bed. So what is sleep? Well, I gave you two options. I didn't give you bed as an option. I gave you two options. Why do we need sleep, or what is sleep? We're going to start with what is sleep, because I think that is a great place to start. When you start anything scientific, we start with the more basic of questions, which is the what question. Why questions can get complicated very fast. And I mean, somewhat questions can be complicated too, but we're going to start with the what question. Well, what is sleep? So, sleep, let's actually Google that. So, what I was mentioning before I started reading your comment too is I like to, that's all my video search histories. I like to, what's it called? Um, show the stream that I'm not rehearsing any of this. I like to show kind of the process by which we can find some information and do it kind of efficiently, and also look at like things we can kind of eliminate some resource or some sources that don't look so valid to us, that don't really maybe not have some scientific evidence supporting it. And so we're going to start with just a very broad question. Well, what is sleep? What is sleep? So I actually like to start. I like things like NIH. The NIH is the National Institute for Health. They provide a lot of great funding opportunities to scientists like myself and scientists working across the nation here. So a lot of funding can be gotten from NIH, which means you're getting a lot of empirical evidence. And by empirical evidence, I mean experiments supported by data. So it's not opinionated. This is data driven, so it's more objective. So this is a cool. We can already start to rely a little bit more. This is National Institutes of Neurologic Disorders and Strokes, and blah, blah, blah. So we can see that this is a better website. It's not just someone's blog of, this is why I think sleep is important, right? This is going to be backed up by a lot of evidence and science. So here we can learn a little about the anatomy of sleep. The sleep stage is really where I want to hone in on. And something I'm going to do before... there's naive realism. there's some of my other search histories. I'm looking at my search. Oh, we got some Warframe search history. This everybody's stupid but me. That's the naive realism meme. Anyway, so let's look up sleep stages. So this is where I really wanted to start with. What is sleep? And I want to go to Wikipedia. Wikipedia sometimes gives us. Do they not? Does Wiki not have one? So sometimes Wikipedia gives it in a very straightforward manner, and we can go see at the very bottom of the Wikipedia page the citations. But sleep comes in multiple stages. And I'm not going to read all of this. I'm just going to go back to this. I'm just going to give a brief overview of sleep myself. And I just want to say that you are welcome, that I just showed you a source that you can use to learn more about sleep from very valid and credible sources. Like the NIH is a great source. NIH and NSF, the National Science Foundation, they support a lot of projects. A lot of science, which means they get access to that data. They by definition, because they're kind of paying for the experiment. By support, I mean they provide funds for us experimenters to do our experiments, because it costs us money to do the experiments. And so they support it, so therefore they get access to the data, and we can publish through them, or they can help us publish. I guess it's not through them, I guess it's through publishers. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is those are some cool sources. But the overview of sleep is it goes in multiple stages, and these stages take about 90 minutes to complete one entire cycle of sleep. So in one night, a human goes through multiple cycles of sleep. And these are 90-minute cycles, 1.5 hours. So 90 minutes, 1.5 hours. I'm going to take a sip of water. So what is happening during those 90 minutes is you're actually going through multiple stages. The first stage of sleep, stage 1, actually, by definition, if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty, the first stage of sleep would be wake. You're awake. So that would be considered a stage of sleep. But let's just gloss over like what we're going to consider stage 1 or 0 or whatever you want to call it. But the first stage of sleep is kind of where it takes about 5 to 15 minutes-ish. It depends on the person. It also, a lot of things can impact sleep, which we can talk about later, of how fast you'll fall asleep and all that type of stuff. Such things such as your diet and exercise, how much sunlight you're getting, those types of things can impact your quality of sleep. But on average, your first stage is going to be kind of 5 to 15 minutes. And in this stage, you're in this light kind of sleep where anything can wake you up. And I think it's kind of interesting to speculate, well, why do we have these stages? And the first stage can kind of illuminate, well, why might that be great? And we can talk about that too. There's so many things we can talk about sleep. This evolutionary stuff is kind of, when I talk about evolutionary psychology, that's kind of the approach you can take on thinking, okay, where did we come from? And everything, it kind of takes on the assumption that the things we are today, like the way our bodies work, the way we work, the way we interact with the environment has been adapted over millions of years to produce something that can survive the environment. And so it's all adaptive. And so the question of evolutionary psychology is, well, why was it adaptive? How was it adaptive? And we can answer it through kind of speculation and some evidence. But a lot of it is kind of hard to actually provide evidence because you're talking about millions of years ago. And you're talking about evolution, which takes millions of years to occur. But anyways, I digress. So, in sleep, you have this first stage, right? 5 to 15 minutes. I think it can go up to 20. I don't know, but it's about like, it's not out of the 90 minutes of your full cycle, it only is like about 10 to 15% of it. So it doesn't take that long. And here, you're very easy to wake, and it's called non-restorative. So by non-restorative, it means if you are sleeping and you just stay in stage 1, and this kind of, and we call them alpha cycle or alpha waves. So if we were to put an EEG on your head, which is an electroencephalogram, that kind of measures brain activity, brain wave activity, we would see these really small, fast kind of waveforms, and those are called alpha waveforms. That kind of tells us your brain is still active, but it is in a daze. So in this first stage, you're very easy to wake, and if you are woken, you're not going to feel rested. So that's what we mean by non-restorative. Now, in the next stage, your neurons. Now, we've talked about neurons on this channel before many times, and I'm always happy to talk about them again, but we're not going to talk about it now. But your neurons do something called firing. And when we mention firing in neuroscience or in biology, we mean the neurons are talking to each other. And when we say fire, it's because when they want to talk to each other, they have to fire something called an action potential. So I'm going to write these things down into the chat. So if you want to just grab it and Google it. Oh, geez, 8,000 GG coins. Are you going for the community? The community guru. Oh, wait, you can already do it. What? I thought the Gerudo challenge was like 30K. I gotta up that up. I gotta up that up. I gotta up that, what's it called? Cost. Up that up. I don't know what I'm talking about. Dang, 8K. What? That's like, you could calculate, you could theoretically, no, not theoretically, you could literally calculate how many, a volume of water that 8K GG, if we had a constant of volume of sip per 100 that you spend, or however much hydration costs, I think it's 100, we could calculate how many liters or gallons of water that is. That's kind of funny. Anyway, so sleep. In the second stage, we have if we have that EEG cap on your head, right? And we're looking at your neurons firing, talking to each other. When you're alive and active and we're doing things. Right now I'm talking, I'm recalling things, I'm doing a lot, I'm moving my body. Everything I'm doing requires neurons firing. Breathing requires neurons firing. Everything requires neurons firing. Like anything action that you're doing is going to require neurons firing. And so if I were to put an EEG on somebody that's playing tennis, for example, we would see a lot of activity in the brain. But when we're in that second stage of sleep, when we're starting to fall into deeper sleep, this is why we call it deeper sleep. It's because your brain is starting to slow down. All right, I'm just waiting for Vegeta. It's over 9,000. There you go. There you go. I'll calculate that now. But you have to know the constant, or assuming it's constant. And it's not going to be constant. Every sip of mine is going to be constant. But let's just assume it's constant. You have to calculate it. If I were you, if you really want to do it, take a sip, spit into a cup that measures volume, and there you go. You can consider that your baseline, and then calculate away. You have to multiply that by like 800 or 80 by 80. Anyway, so back to sleep though. In this stage 2, as I was mentioning, things are slowing down. In your alpha stage, so let's just, and I'm going to take a step back for a second. When we're talking about that first stage, what is something? Let's just think about it. I'm going to give everyone like 30 seconds. No, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. What is one reason why we are going to be in multiple stages, and the first stage is quite easy to wake us up? Well, what happens when you're asleep is you're unconscious, right? Your body actually releases some signals to the body to even paralyze it, like to not move it. Because when you're dreaming and you're dreaming of moving, you wouldn't actually want to be moving in real life because you might run off a cliff or something. And remember, we're talking about evolutionary psychology approach and the advantages of being designed this way by natural selection and mutations and so on and so forth. And so back in the day when you're just sleeping out in the fields or in caves or whatever you want to call it, it would not be advantageous to be moving around while you're unconscious. You could get very, very hurt. So you actually kind of enter the sleep paralysis, and that's on purpose. That way you're not moving around even though your mind might be active. So what happens if you're about to slip into that? Like if we were to immediately go unconscious, right when we close our eyes, immediately go unconscious, and then realize there's a danger around us that could eat us, harm us, poison, anything like that, inject venom into us, well, we would just die. Like sleep would be very, very dangerous to us. We wouldn't want to engage in it very often. But as we'll soon talk about, sleep is really important for the brain. It's super important for our types of brains, for our mammalian brains that are this powerful. Our brains are incredibly powerful. So sleep is really, really important for maintaining the brain and keeping it healthy and keeping it functioning. And so that would be too much of a trade-off in a natural sense. To be like, okay, if I pass out immediately and a predator can just kill me, versus the benefits of sleep, it's just too steep of a cost. Being dead versus getting the benefit of sleep, well, I'd rather just be awake all the time. But then your brain does take on a lot of damage through not sleeping. Like eventually you just die of sleep deprivation. So you're kind of stuck. And so if that were the case, well, we would never have evolved past that stage, right? So we have this kind of evolved system where we're in multiple stages. And the first stage is kind of like a buffer zone. Anything can wake you up. So you're falling asleep, crackle the bush, and you can wake up immediately and engage in your fight or flight response, right? So it's very advantageous for your first 5 to 15 minutes, because that's like, all right, after that, it's just bad luck. Like if something attacks you, then they knew that it takes you that long to fall asleep. And we all kind of have different ranges of that. And also, we also evolved around others. So people will fall asleep at different times often. Well, back then, you could take shifts, be the night shift, whatever. And so that way, we could all sleep. So that can already start to explain, well, why is sleep in stages? We can think of it from the evolutionary approach, and that's just one explanation right there. I'm not saying that is the absolute most correct one. I'm just presenting one reason, one explanation that can be supported through evolutionary psychological evidence and theory of why sleep might be partitioned in these stages. And the first stage, which is relatively short, is where you're very easy to wake up. Now, why is it so short? Well, what if it takes you an hour to fall asleep, and get into deep sleep where you're actually entering the benefits of sleep? Because that first stage, you're not getting any benefits of the sleep. It's non-restorative. You're not feeling rested. So if you did that for an hour, that'd be extremely unadvantageous. Again, the night only has so many hours. The day has only so many hours. And a lot of those hours, you probably want to be active because you need to hunt. You need to get some food. You need to build. You need to get ready for winter. You need to get a lot of stuff going. And so it'd be advantageous of you to take advantage of, seize the day, if you will. And so if it takes you forever to enter deep sleep, then that's a problem. So you're kind of in the Goldilocks zone. Oh, it's long enough that if there's any immediate threat in your environment, you could address it. And if there wasn't, then you can fall asleep relatively fast and get your good night's sleep. I'm going to close this a little bit so we can show off this, because this is actually green. This isn't really yellow. This is green. I do want to just mention again, this does look like Shark Party GG. This is from Thailand, so I just want to cite them again. This is a Thailand shirt. 5,120 gallons. Yikes. So I'm going to have to put some stipulations on the redemption of GG coins, that you can't redeem them all in one go, because I think that would constitute murder right there, with forcing someone to drink that many gallons of water. Oh, shoot. You know what I forgot to do with my little Welcome to Science Friday thing? I didn't do this. Woo! Why do we need it? Beyond murder. You drown a whole village. Nah, I don't think it's enough to drown a village. But anyway, so we're talking about sleep, and now we just kind of presented a plausible, and I'm not saying this was the correct theory, but a plausible theory as to why it's partitioned in the stages. And that first stage, we're relatively easy to wake up. The next stage, as I was mentioning previously, is where we start to fall into deeper sleep. However, it's still you're not done with your sleep. Now I'm gonna try to pull up a graph or something here. Sleep stages. Can we get a graph here? I need a graph. Oh, we can kind of see this here. I really wish. This might work too. This will show this shows kind of the open. This kind of shows the cycles I'm talking about. I'm not entirely. So today, when I saw the presentation, the stages were actually summarized quicker. There was just like 2 stages, and then REM. So REM was considered stage 3, basically. But and we'll talk about REM in a second. So we're in stage 2, and stage 2 through 4 is basically characterized by very similar patterns. You're just falling deeper and deeper and closer to REM as we transition from stage 2 to stage 4. And as we're transitioning from stage 2 to stage 4, right, we start here at awake. We already talked about stage 1. This is where you can be woken up a lot. Stage 2, or you can be woken up very easily. Sorry. Stage 2 is where where you hear about sleep spindles. I'm going to go over that in just a second. However, here's again where your brain waves are starting to slow down, and they just keep getting deeper. And by deeper, I mean the amplitudes of your waves. So on the EEG, the way brain activity is kind of output on graph. Here, let's look at an EEG. Oh, here we go. Here we go. This is what an EEG looks like of sleep. So here is what your wake brain waves look like. They're quick because the neurons are firing quickly. They're a lot of them are firing. And they're kind of just going back and forth, kind of quick. Here, we see them slow down. When I say slow down, it means the amplitude. And amplitude is when you're measuring a wave, the amplitude is how big that wave is. And the frequency is how often that wave occurs. So we see the frequency slow down. Here, the frequency is quite high, right? These waves are happening quite frequently. Here, the frequency is not so high, right? And frequency can be measured in hertz, right? The inverse of time. And so here we have the frequency isn't as high, but the amplitudes are quite big. So these amplitudes are small, how big the wave is. And these are quite big. And so that's what we mean that we're falling deeper into sleep, is that our waves, our brain is kind of slowing down. And what's actually happening, why are these amplitudes getting bigger and bigger but slower and slower, is your neurons are seeming to kind of start to fire in unison. So they all just kind of quiet down, and then boom, they all fire at the same time. And they calm down, and boom, it's kind of like a heartbeat almost. Quiet down, boom, and then you have these amplitudes that are being produced. And then you hit REM. So REM, what does that look like to all of you in the stream? It kind of looks like a different stage, right? Here, I'm going to read this comment really quick. I'm going to calculate how long that much water can sustain the average American household. All right, good luck while you're doing that. We're going to continue talking about sleep here. All right, so sleep. What does that REM wave right there look like to you? It looks like awake, stage 1 maybe. That's because and what does REM stand for? Well, it stands for rapid eye movement. So when you're actually asleep and if you were to go over to somebody that was in the middle of REM sleep, which you can kind of predict to be the tail end of those 90 minutes, so maybe the last half hour, 20 minutes, because it takes about 60 minutes to get from stage 1 all the way it takes about 70 minutes to go from awake to REM, essentially. So the last tail end, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, tends to be REM. And so if you were to catch someone right in their REM sleep, then you would see underneath their eyelids, let me see if we can see it on the stream. I don't know if you can see this on the stream, but I'm looking left and right, and maybe you could see kind of a lump beneath my eyelids moving around. That's your lens, right? And so your eyes are moving left and right very rapidly. There's many reasons why that might be happening. I can speculate. I can tell you that when you are actually doing that, your eyes have something called visual fields. And you have a left visual field and a right visual field. And those visual fields are connected to different hemispheres of your brain. And the way your brain is connected in the very middle, so a hemisphere is kind of like a lobe and another lobe, and your brain has these 2 lobes like this, and something in the middle is connecting them. That something is a bridge, like a cable, and that thick cable is called the corpus callosum. And so when we activate both sides of our body, half of our brain is controlling one contralateral side, and the other half is controlling the other contralateral side. So my right half of my brain controls my left leg and my left arm, for example. That's just the way your body's connected. Don't really know why. That's the case. Except your olfactory. Your olfactory is ipsilateral, right? Your right nostril is connected to your right lobe, and your left nostril is connected to your left hemisphere. And so, as our eyes can move back and forth, you are actually activating both sides of the brain. So you can be activating like that. So that's presumably why I think that's happening during your REM sleep. Your eyes are doing this. Now, what is happening during sleep? Why do we need it? This can be starting to transition us into the other question. Well, why do we need sleep? Um, but really quick, REM sleep. Before I kind of stop talking about what is sleep. REM sleep, rapid eye movement. This is also where we dream. Okay, so in the previous stages, we're not dreaming at all. We're just falling deeper and deeper. Now, REM sleep is also where we get restorative sleep. If we're not really hitting REM sleep, you're not going to feel so great when you wake up. If you get woken up in the middle of stage 2, you feel really groggy. So if you are thinking about naps, in my opinion, are great at 90-minute intervals because that allows you one full cycle. Um, Anyway, REM sleep is also, like I mentioned, it's the last portion. If we look over here, it's the last portion. So we can look at the sleep cycle overnight, right? Here's hours on the bottom, on the x-axis. And as we see, we start to drop deeper and deeper and deeper. And then we hit REM, deeper and deeper and deeper. And then we hit REM, and then deeper. So those are your sleep cycles. And each cycle takes about 90 minutes, going through stage 1 to REM, back to stage 1 to REM, back to stage 1, and so on and so forth. And so you dream actually a lot during the night, but you tend to only remember the last one. This final REM sleep is the one you're probably going to remember right when you wake up. So if you're woken up in REM, you're going to probably feel refreshed. You're going to feel good, especially if you had multiple REMs that night. You're going to feel refreshed and good, and you might actually remember your dreams. Not everyone remembers their dreams, but you might remember your dreams. All right, comment break. For one house of people who drink water, to drink all that in a healthy way, it would take approximately 10.8 years. Man, you have gained enough GG coins to provide water to a lot of households. How do you feel? Anyway, let's proceed with some sleep. Let's start to transition into the next question, which is, well, why do we need sleep? You know, all these stages: sleep, 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 circadian rhythm, sleep-wake homeostasis. We can talk about all those terms, but we're actually just gonna chill and talk about them. We're not here to be reading all these jargony articles. We're here to just chat and have some fun while we listen to music and, Science Friday. So why do we need sleep? Well, as I was mentioning, when we talked about that stage, I don't know why I prematurely left this. When we're talking about this stage where all your neurons are firing together, I actually started to think about that. I was like, okay, like, why does your brain want to fire in unison? And why is it in REM sleep that we're doing why is it that we're doing all these things? That we're in this like rapid eye movement and we're trying to connect both sides and trying to activate both sides. Well, something that happens in the brain during your sleep that's been shown through both animal studies and now in human studies as well, but mainly animal studies, is that your brain is actually replaying a lot of what happened during your waking life that same day. So this is why and we're going to start to this is starting to tap into, maybe you're starting to piece together why sleep is so important, because your brain is replaying what's happening during that day. If you're pulling a lot of all-nighters, that's too much data that the brain can't process. It's overloading it with data, because your brain, although you might not know it, or you may know this, but a lot of the time your brain is processing a lot of information or data without you knowing this. And it's going to try to process and understand it, because it's going to try to use this data to then predict the future, so that way you can be better prepared. Like, that's an awesome computer, and I'm telling you, you all have this computer, and it's doing this for you. Sometimes you do it consciously, but a lot of the time you're doing this unconsciously. You're kind of doing this in a spontaneous or automatic way. Sometimes this can lead you to error. So this is when we can talk about biases, stereotypes. A lot of discrimination can come from these types of errors in the brain. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about sleep. And so during sleep, we're replaying these moments in the day, and we're just trying to get an understanding of it. And we're gonna what is the brain gonna do? It's gonna recruit all of these teams, like everyone come on in, let's huddle together. And that to me is screaming. That's why these brain waves are getting all together, because when neurons fire together, the amplitude gets bigger, right? But to to get a big push, you kind of go boom. And so it's going to be these large, slow amplitudes. And so, and it's also, and then the rapid eye movement is going to be like, all right, now that we've kind of huddled together, rapid eye movement is going to allow our brains, that's connected through that corpus callosum, as I mentioned. It's going to communicate across the brain, recruit more neurons. But this is also where you're dreaming. Sometimes dreams can be strange because your brain is integrating information in obscure ways. Now, I'm not the dream expert, so I don't fully understand dreams, but I can just tell you that sleep is kind of where we're replaying a lot of the day, and we're trying to understand it. And when we talk about, well, what does replaying during the day mean in terms of biology, or the neurons are the cells that make up your brain. Well, this is what it looks like. Your cells are firing at the same time. This is awake, right? Some neurons are firing, some are not. It's kind of more chaotic. Maybe parts of this side are firing and not this side, right? Our language center is more so on the left side of our brain, not so much on the right. So when you're sleeping, you don't need language, right? So it's not super important for that to be firing still. So that'll be maybe shut down. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is your brain is kind of like this really fancy orchestra with all this activity happening, all these neurons shutting off and turning on during the day. But at night, especially when you're in deeper sleep, they're all starting to be this more synchronized orchestra. And they all play together, and they quiet down together, and they play together, creating these nice big waves right here. And then we go back into kind of that shuffle of like, all right, let's go through everything again, get everything. But this is also where you're resting. This is where your connections also, so memories are consolidated during these stages, right? This sleep is so critical to memory because this is where you can reinforce your neurons. They kind of get stronger synaptic connections. We've already talked about synapses in this channel, but synapses, just as a review, is the little space between neurons that where the communication between neurons actually is occurring. So anyway, just like when we work out, right? Sometimes if you're a person that likes to work out, you might know a little bit about how muscles are built. What are you doing when you work out? You're ripping them apart. You're damaging them. You're producing a stress on the body. And that's okay, right? But it is, after all, a stress that you need to recover from. And when does your body recover? Well, we all know sleep is really important for muscle growth because that's also when your body's allowed to recover. Because when you're asleep, you're not using those muscles. For it to recover, you need to not use them. If I continuously use them, those muscles will eventually just wear out, just like anything in life, right? The more you use something, the more it's going to get worn out. But sleep allows the recovery. And in the recovery process of your muscles, what's happening is actually your body's going to be like, okay, whatever we did that ripped us this much apart, we got to get ready so the next time it doesn't rip us apart. So let's put in more protein. Let's put in more building blocks into that muscle so it's better prepared for next time it approaches that same weight or that same task. So your body, every single night, is just inserting more building blocks into the muscles because you rip it apart and it allows it to rebuild, but it's going to rebuild a little bit stronger each time. This is why also working out takes time, because it's not like it can just put in a massive building, like a massive Lego block. We're talking about atoms worth of change. So you don't see any significant change until months later, right? Because we're talking about atoms worth, we're talking about proteins worth, these small molecules, but it's happening every single day. The key to progress here is consistency, right? You got to do it every day. Otherwise, you're not sending the signal to the body to say, hey, keep producing because we're going to keep needing to lift weights and every time it's going to get stronger. This is also why you need to keep upping the weight, right? Because your body's building itself to match whatever the demand is. Once it's matched it, then it's going to stop. Like, why overdo it? That'd be a waste of energy. So your brain is kind of the same way as the muscles in that sense. Your brain is going to be like, all right, so we encountered all this information, and this is really important to us. So your brain sometimes makes these calculations and thinks about, okay, this is really important to us. Let's fortify that connection. And so in sleep, that's when these neurons are allowed to kind of go through something called, I'm not entirely, I don't know if we should go down this path, but basically it's called long-term potentiation. So I'm going to put this here, long-term potentiation. So this is one mechanism by which we understand how memories can get stronger, or how certain synaptic connections between neurons get stronger. It's just something called long-term potentiation, which is similar to the mechanisms I was explaining about the muscles. That the more we use it, the more it's going to try to strengthen that connection for the next time to be better prepared. And so this is what's also happening when you're asleep is your neurons are undergoing these strengthening of connections. Or maybe it's in it, we also see the production of new neural connections and even some neurogenesis. And neurogenesis is a fancy word for the creation of new neurons, like the birthing of new neurons. So sleep is incredibly important for those reasons too. It helps with memory consolidation. But it also, you know what else is happening during sleep? It's also cleaning the brain. You have these janitor type cells in your brain. And they kind of come active at night because you don't want them around. Let's just say you're at a hospital and everything's really bustling, hustling and bustling, and lives are on the line, right? Lives are literally on the line, so we need our hallways clear. So when is it more likely that you're going to want your janitors out and about, sweeping the floors and, providing all these barriers for all the hustling and bustling nurses and doctors? You'd probably put them during a time where there's not much activity. So the least amount of activity is usually at night. And so you probably say, okay, janitors, I'm sorry that I have to do this, but you're going to have to work the night shift. Well, the brain kind of did that to some cells. It goes, hey, I know that, well, actually, it doesn't talk to itself, but basically it just goes, hey, your job is going to be to clean up the brain at night because that's when we're not using a lot of things that we use during the day. And so at that point, you can clean it and it's not going to cause any massive issues. So these cells can become active at that time and not interrupt in other daily processes that might be very important to our survival. Now, what is it that it's actually cleaning? Well, as you are alive and doing your daily thing, whatever it may be doing, you're using your brain, you're eating, you're, doing a lot of things. Just like when you eat, you produce waste, your cells also eat and produce waste. And that waste, their kind of poop, if you will, needs to be cleaned up. It needs to be flushed out. It needs to go out and it will eventually reach, your intestines and, it goes out with it, right? We are cleaning out some stuff from the brain. And in fact, the Alzheimer's disease is the malfunctioning of these cells that clean your brain. And I don't fully understand Alzheimer's. I'm not claiming that I do. What I do understand of it is that the plaques in your, like, the Alzheimer's is due to plaques that grow in your brain. These plaques are naturally formed. We all are creating them in our brains all the time. And sleep allows us to clear them out. So if you get very sleep deprived, these plaques are going to keep growing and growing and growing. We need to clean them out. We need to clean out that garbage. So Alzheimer's is kind of the malfunctioning of that. It's the malfunctioning of the ability to clean out those plaques. Cool. We've talked about sleep, and we've started talking about why we need it. There's so much more to talk about, but I'm going to take a quick water break. We'll give like 30 seconds for anyone to just chat if they want to slip in any questions, comments, or any redirections in the chat. We can always talk about other things. We don't always have to talk about what I've picked out, but today, again, as I was mentioning earlier, we're back to the roots of Science Friday. Today's topic was inspired by a talk I just heard today. I like this song. You're still going on about water. Oh my god. This whole time, all of us are over here talking about sleep, and you're over there just chatting about some water. I like it. Water's important, and water's also good for sleep. There's something, I'm just gonna say we're gonna put on our tinfoil hats a little bit here because I don't have any evidence to support this. I just have like I said, an approximate knowledge of these things. And okay, no, I don't. It's not tinfoil hat. This is based on a lot of information that I've learned over the years and kind of pieced together myself. But that's the caveat: is I pieced this together myself. But from having shadowed a psychiatrist, having been around, having taken all the bio courses I've taken, haven't been in grad school for this long, and been around neuroscience for these many years. Three things seem to fix almost 60% of human ailments. Like you have a headache, you're feeling crappy, you're feeling low energy, you're feeling depressed, you're feeling anxious, you're feeling sick. Three things that I think every doctor, or I think we should all ask ourselves before we really start to consider more severe options, that we need to ask ourselves are you drinking enough water, are you eating the right things, and are you getting enough sleep? Oh, and exercise. Sorry, 4. I guess water and diet should be one category. So things that are going into your mouth, so water and your food. exercise and sleep. Those three things are stupid linked together. And they all feed into each other, and they're all so important. And right now we're talking about the importance of sleep. And so let's get back into the topic, since SPS is kind of I haven't heard any questions from the comment section. Just SPS is providing us with some interesting information regarding the GG coins and the conversion into gallons of water and how much we can do with those gallons of water. The rest of us are going to continue to talk about sleep. Where do we want to go with sleep? So today's talk also went into the impacts. So we kind of understand what is sleep and why we kind of need it. I haven't fully talked about all the in-depth reasons why we need sleep, but I gave you guys kind of like this eagle-eye view. It's important for us to sleep because this is where we're doing a lot of maintenance. This is where our brain's allowed to clean itself, to consolidate, to kind of review. Sit there and kind of go over everything that happened in that day. Hold on to things that were important. Be like, okay, that was important. That was important. Okay, we almost slipped and died there. Maybe we shouldn't go down that hallway again, right? Without sleep, you wouldn't consolidate as many memories as you would. Our memories are very impacted by sleep. That you might, and it's really important that we retain our memories because, again, maybe there are areas in the planet that our ancestors were like, if we go there, we die. So it's important for us to not go there. Or if we go there, we can get fed. So it's important to us to remember where that is. All this consolidation of memory is happening in our sleep. Or not all of it, but a lot of it is happening in our sleep. So sleep is really, really important for memory. And there's something that I like to say about memory. I guess I don't want to say I don't want to take credit for this, but I've heard it said in science, especially in the cognitive literature, that memory is kind of the glue to our lives. Really, like without our memories, from one day to the next, we don't remember who we are from the past, right? Our personality is kind of like the accumulation of all our life experiences, and we're remembering those experiences. If we just were to forget it every single day, life would be chaotic. So memory is kind of that glue that makes life consistent. Sleep. So sleep is heavily related to memory because without memory, so people who are sleep deprived will do much worse on cognitive tasks, much worse on memory tasks, and even tasks like driving takes a huge hit. That leads me into the next topic of, well, what about foreign chemicals? So what if you're taking stimulants? What if you drink caffeine? How does that impact sleep? So, on the topic of driving and sleep deprivation, when you're sleep deprived, you don't drive very well. So, what happens if it's coffee versus a nap? If you were to take a nap, you drive way better. If you were to take coffee, you actually do worse than if you were to just continue driving sleep deprived. Coffee actually makes you cognitively worse when you're already sleep deprived and you drink the coffee. It's not going to give you any restorative properties to the brain. It's not going to help you in any sense. And in fact, coffee has a half-life to it, if you will. Like it takes some time for it to get out of the brain. Even though you might feel tired and you could sleep, even having drank some coffee. It also depends on the people, but sleep can also be an inhibitor of REM sleep. And we already talked about how important REM sleep is. This is when a lot of that memory consolidation and healthy benefits from sleep is occurring. And so if you're preventing yourself from getting those health benefits, then you're only shooting yourself in the foot, almost quite literally, but I guess it's more so aimed at the head because your brain is there. You're really being detrimental to your life if you're not allowing yourself to get that REM sleep. It's not good to not be accessing REM sleep on a daily basis. So, the other thing that was mentioned in today's talk were things such as stimulants, such as like the ADD medications. So those medications, if you're unaware of what they are, those are stimulants. They're trying to just kind of promote certain parts of the brain that help you feel motivated, focused, and energized. It's just trying to like kind of switch the signal to go, okay, keep that running on high, right? But there is cost to that. There's always cost to anything in life, especially in the brain. Your brain is in this kind of harmony or balance, and anything you're introduced to it that's outside this balance is no matter what going to shift it outside its balance. This balance is called homeostasis. We'll type it in here, homeostasis. I spelled that wrong. Homeostasis. So homeostasis, let's grab a quick definition here, just so people can see that I'm not just pulling out all these things I'm talking about just out of my behind, but I'm actually basing this on things you can Google. You can fact check me on anything I'm saying if you want. I hope you guys are, and then we can have some. You can see that a lot of this is based on science. It's not just my opinion. So homeostasis is the tendency toward I don't know what. Okay, that's great. The tendency toward a relatively stable equilibrium. equilibrium or harmony, right? Between interdependent elements, especially as maintained by physiological processes. So we can see that the brain in biology, homeostasis, let's see what the Wikipedia has to say. In biology, homeostasis is a state of steady internal physical and chemical conditions maintained by living systems. So it's basically your Goldilocks zone. This is why your body needs to be at a certain temperature, because at this temperature, a lot of chemical reactions can proceed. Heat is an excellent catalyst for a lot of chemical reactions, and so we keep our bodies continuously hot on purpose for that reason. But too hot, what happens is your proteins. So proteins are the basic building structure of a lot of cells and cellular functions and a lot of other important things in your body. It's not just muscles. They're very important building blocks. So proteins start to denature, and by denature it means deconstruct after a certain amount of heat. So this is why when you're going to cook meat, what you're doing is you're denaturing the protein so it becomes very soft and easy to eat and digest. Because before that, it's much harder to digest. And so fevers, if it gets too high, what happens is those proteins are literally, your body's starting to deteriorate because it's too hot. So fevers can get very deadly when it's getting too hot in the body because your proteins start to denature. You're essentially just your components are starting to get very weak and unstable, and that's problematic. And what happens when they get too cold? Well, they can't function. They get rigid. They could break, right? So we want to be in this Goldilocks zone of warmth for the body. So that's part of homeostasis. So anytime we introduce any sort of foreign chemical, like an ADD component or caffeine, something that we're not naturally producing ourselves, well, we're going to affect homeostasis. We're going to affect the equilibrium because you've introduced a foreign concept into something that's already in balance or attempting to be in balance. So it's like essentially going up to somebody that's standing on one foot and you push them, and what they're going to do is they're going to lean and then they're going to try to get back on that one foot, so they'll jump around a little bit. So in that time that you're jumping around, you kind of act like a pendulum, right? And then you finally kind of get back into the same spot. In that time, it can cause some issues in your everyday functioning. One of those issues is sleep takes a hit. And when sleep takes a hit, so does cognitive capacity. By that I mean your ability to kind of think on your toes, to think creatively, to multitask, do all those things. If you're not sleeping, that takes a hit. And also your overall health takes a hit. As I mentioned, the brain needs to be cleaned out too. So caffeine, although in the moment can give you some short-time benefits, so it's not that it's completely, or no, sorry, I wasn't talking about coffee, but coffee's kind of along the same way. It's just on a more minor scale. Although the ADD medications at the moment can give you short-time benefits, at the long term, you're going to pay for it in sleep. And even though, like I said, you might be able to fall asleep, you are going to be inhibiting some of that deep sleep that we all need and our bodies crave. Now, these studies weren't done on chronic users. That's the caveat here. So, if you are a type of person that has been diagnosed with anything, these studies with coffee and the medications were done on people who don't take any of that on a regular basis. So their homeostatic baseline is someone that doesn't take it. So what happens if you are a type of person that takes medications on a daily basis? Well, that becomes your homeostatic baseline, right? So as I take a medication, the brain and your body adjust for it. So the first time you ever took it, you probably felt very weird, right? That's because you got thrown out of sync, and now you're trying to find this like balance again and get back to the harmony. But once you get off of it, that's going to happen again, right? This is called a withdrawal, and that's what's happening is you're throwing your homeostasis out of balance again. All homeostasis is just trying to maintain harmony with the daily situation. So if my daily situation is that I take a pill every single day, well, then that becomes my homeostatic baseline. And then, by the way, just FYI, something that kind of puts a pressure on your homeostasis, it can be called an allostatic load. So if you want to Google these things, you can. Allostatic load. Whoo! Sleepy, 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 sleepy. Talking about sleep gets me excited. Isn't that weird? Shouldn't it be like the other way? Nah, it's just because I like science. That's what's really driving the excitement. No, and sleep is a cool topic to talk about. Man, I like. I'm gonna have to stream with this shirt more often. I do feel like it's like the Shark Party channel shirt, even though it's a soccer shirt from Thailand. I think there's like is that an elephant? Yeah, it's an elephant. I mean, these are the elephants here. If they were sharks, that would have been cool, but they're elephants, so. What else should we talk about sleep? Let me think. So here's another little fun factoid. I'm gonna call it factoid. I don't want to call it fact. I'm not gonna. I don't call things facts for many reasons. I'm one. It's a no-no in science to call something a fact. Like it's 100% proven. Like okay, no, there's a there's a certain probability that it's not true due to circumstances we couldn't measure, but that probably is like 0.000000001%. So that's why we say like, okay, yeah, we really believe this is happening because we are 99.999 because the evidence says that, because the data says that. But statistics will rarely say it's 100% this way. Just like we can't 100% guarantee the sun won't explode tomorrow, but we all live like it's not because we trust in the data. Same thing here. So just another little thing about sleep. So depending on who you are, so this doesn't apply to absolutely everybody, and we can think about people who this will not apply to. But as I said, your homeostatic is kind of this attempt to get harmony, an attempt to be familiar with with your environment. So your body wants to be familiar with the environment and be able to have control over it, to be able to predict it, and never be kind of caught off guard because that could mean your life. So this is kind of where anxiety can be born from, is when you have the uncertainty, and depression can arise from chronic uncertainty. But in terms of sleep, when you sleep in your bed at home every single day, especially if you do it at the same time, even better. If you can regulate it to that degree where it's very predictable for your brain, you'll find that you'll fall asleep faster, you'll fall asleep deeper, you'll get nicer sleep, all of that. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that you're falling asleep in the same place, presumably your home. So when you travel and you go sleep in other places, you might find that it's a little bit harder to sleep. This is controlling for time zone changes, right? If you traveled across the world and it's clearly day outside, that's going to mess with your signals too, right? The sun actually helps us to signal to be awake and active, and so nighttime is the absence of those signals. So that's also why we begin to feel tired, because we're basically not being energized by the sun. But that's a very, very minimal factor there. There's other reasons why you also start to feel sleepy. One of those reasons being that trash that I was mentioning. There's a sensor in your brain that measures kind of like, okay, like the tank's full, time to fall asleep so we can clean it. There's a sensor for that as well. And so that's another reason why we might feel tired. But the sun is also a good indicator of like, all right, time to be active. All right, time to go to sleep. But anyways, back to what we were talking about originally. Before we started talking about all these indicators, and man, I go on tangents really fast, and now and then I forget what we're talking about, and I just did that right now. I got distracted because my wife is leaving. Okay. Anyway. So sleepy, sleepy, sleepy. Oh man, let me try to remember where we were. I just got distracted. Let's try to recall. I was talking about oh well. I'll just keep going with the Oh no, I remember. When you're sleeping away. So ignoring the fact that you're in a different spot, you're different. What happened to my? Oh no, she grabbed the music. No, she ended my music. One second. I have to be right back. I have to get this music back. I'll be right back. She totally took the music. No. I will be right back, everybody. All right, all right. I think I got control over our music back. There we go. We got it back. Cool, 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 cool. All right, we're back. So we're talking about being in different places. And so something that happens that you might find, and this doesn't happen to everybody, is that it's harder to fall asleep. Again, independent of time zone changes and all that, and jet lag and blah blah blah. Independent of all that, let's just say you went to a hotel down the street. It still might be harder for you to fall asleep. Why? It's because it's a new environment. It's a novel environment. This presents a possible danger. Like, okay, well, in my home, I know it's safe. I've lived there my entire life. Nothing bad has ever happened to me, so I have no reason to believe that something bad will happen to me. But when you're in a new place, your brain's like, I don't know anyone around here or anything around here. So it's going to be better that we're not into super deep sleep because it's better to be woken up a little bit easier. So you'll find that you don't enter as deep a sleep, or it might be harder to sleep. You might take longer in that first stage that we mentioned at the beginning of the stream, where it's like 5 to 10 to 15 minutes. Well, when you're in a new place, it might take a little bit longer, right? And that's to me, it's an adaptive thing for the brain to do, right? To be like, all right, well, like we're not familiar with this environment, so just in case, we're gonna take a little bit longer. We're gonna take the better safe than sorry, right? It's better to be a little bit more tired tomorrow than to be dead now. So that's kind of a little interesting thing I want to throw out there about sleep and when you travel. Now, not everybody is going to behave this way. Actually, some people sleep better outside their homes, and this is typically people where the home has become an iconic of stress. So maybe something traumatic happened at home. Maybe you work from home and just home just you now pair it with stress. Those types of things are going to impact the way you sleep, and so sometimes some people find that they sleep much better when they're on vacations, right? Another reason why you might sleep much better when you're on vacation when you're at home is on vacation also you're not as stressed than when you're working your daily life. And so stress does impact our sleep as well. If we're chronically stressed, well, it's going to chronically impact our sleep. I mean, I think we're all humans. We've all, if you're on Twitch, I'm presuming, if you're on Twitch by yourself listening to me and you're following along, I'm presuming you're at least high school or above. And so we've all been able to experience stress at some point. We've taken a test at this point, and those can be stressful. We've studied for classes. We've gotten in trouble. We've gone through certain stressors in our life. And so we can all the most probable thing is we can relate to saying, yeah, I lost sleep over stress. And so it's something we've all experienced. And so I'm just going to say, I'm not going to go into the whole science of how stress starts to impact your sleep and the downstream consequences of that. But in terms of homeostasis, stress is another thing that comes in and throws you off sync, right? Whew, sleepy, sleepy, sleep. So, as a little recap, what is sleep? Sleep is partitioned into multiple stages wherein your neurons are and your neurons are your cells in your brain. That's what your brain is made up of. And during the day, they talk to each other a lot. There's a lot of activity going on. So sleep is the deactivation or kind of the calming down of those neurons, and they start to fire in unison together. And then they enter this stage that kind of replicates your waking life, where your eyes are moving and a lot of activations happening. So what's going on there is kind of you're consolidating memories. You're reviewing what happened during your day, holding on to things that are important for you to remember the next day. Your brain is being cleaned out, right? There's some stuff that needs to get out of there because as you are living, your cells are producing some byproducts, some garbage, some poop, if you will. That needs to be cleaned out of there because it's a physical object that takes up physical space, and you don't have too much space in here. There is some space, but there's a lot of space, like extra space, I mean. And so if you allow that poop to just accumulate forever, well, then there wouldn't be enough space for those neurons. Those would start to die because they get suffocated by being pushed against your skull, right? They just be consumed. That's called a tumor. A tumor would do that, right? It just keeps growing, growing, and growing. And so that happens during sleep. Your brain's being cleaned out, right? Your body enters repair mode too. So if you did exercise, your body is also going to start to repair itself during this time because that's the only time it gets the chance to do that. And then why do we need sleep? Well, those are some big reasons I just mentioned. Actually, those are a lot of the reasons I just mentioned. But the other reasons I guess another reason why we also need sleep is, well, it's also for I guess it does relate to everything else. It's for our survival, right? We need it to survive. Our brain cannot function without this. So many connections are being made. It's also for the creation of new memories, but also fortifying your current memories. So I guess that was redundant of why do we need it and the what. Those kind of bled into each other very much so there. Um, but that is kind of the recap of sleep. Hopefully, you have learned something from uh, today's Science Friday. If you have any questions, comments, I'm happy to talk about it. I don't have too much else I want to talk about because so I will mention that the speaker today went into other topics regarding sleep. So she started to bring in a little bit of social psychology in the sense of like, all right, do different demographics of people sleep the same? So she showed this map. I'm gonna kind of probably end this stream here with some other food for thought, unless people want to jump in and start chatting about these things too. Um, but she showed the map of the U.S. and showed like, all right, does anyone like on average, um, is there any state where basically the average citizen or civilian there is getting a full night's sleep? And no, there's no single state that has it. Basically, in the best states where the people are getting sleep, and adequate sleep would be defined as like full night's sleep where you've undergone the adequate number of REM sleep cycles, the 90-minute cycles. Um, the best states basically are at like 25% of people are not getting good sleep. So 1 in 4 people are not getting good sleep. And there are states as bad as 50% of people are not getting good sleep. One in every 2 people are not getting good sleep. So that to me is kind of scary, and I think because that just means like a lot of people in this world, and this is just for the U.S. So I'm assuming that you could probably find very similar statistics in other countries, and it would be very like, oh man, a lot of people are not getting a healthy amount of sleep. That means there's a lot of people out there sleep deprived, which is very unhealthy and also not cognitively good. Just imagine if everyone was getting good sleep. I think society would be a little bit more productive and probably a lot chiller too. Okay, not a lot chiller. I can't guarantee that one, but because by the way, what else does sleep help with? There's so much. There is way more we can talk about. Because what else does sleep help with? Well, emotion regulation, right? Sleep helps us regulate our emotions. It helps us provide kind of the parts of the brain with the rest needed to regulate your emotions. So when you're sleep deprived, what do we tend to notice? People are a little bit more irritable. They can snap, right? That's what we mean by emotion regulation, is that for the same type of question someone might ask me where if I was sleep deprived, I might snap at them. For that same type of question, I might be like, oh, like very patient about it. If I'd gotten a good night's sleep, that's emotion regulation, because I'm not giving the same type of emotional response when depending on how much sleep I got. So that's another thing that sleep impacts is your emotion regulation processes. So imagine, like, oh man, there's so many people in the world, so many millions, hundreds of millions of people. I mean, there's absolutely other problems. I'm not negating those as well, like hunger, thirst. But sleep is also one of those critical things to survive. So if we were to look at the Maslow's hierarchy of hierarchy of happiness, or the pyramid of happiness, to even start to begin fathoming being happy, you need to satisfy your most basic survival needs, and those are shelter, food, water, and sleep. Sleep is one of those two, and shelter kind of feeds into that. So just imagine a lot of people out there are not getting the sleep they need. There's a lot of people out there. Whew. Now there's a lot of things you can do to get better sleep. A good diet is going to contribute to it. So if you're eating very poorly, that can lead to worse sleep, right? If you're eating too many sugars, artificial things, those don't process well in the body. If you ate way too many calories of sugars, basically your body has to do something with it. So all it's going to continue to do is just keep burning it. And if you keep burning it, that's energy coming out. So that's going to provide energy when you don't need it, which is when you sleep. So that's going to disrupt your sleep cycles. Exercise makes it so that your brain produces that type of signal for tiredness. So that's another thing you can do to influence your sleep. Man, I said I was going to end it, and then like these new ideas to talk about sleep are just coming up. And I'm not even a sleep researcher. These are just the things I kind of learned today and kind of have studied over the years in bio courses. If you know way more about sleep, chime in. I'm more than happy for you to chime in. Anyway, let's see. Any other things we want to chat about? Any comments, questions are more than welcome in the chat, and I'm happy to chat about it. But otherwise, I hope we have been able to learn something about sleep today, whether it was kind of the stages of sleep, if that was new, cool, or why it's needed, what's happening during sleep. Um, I'm gonna recommend. I've just heard really good things. I haven't read it, so but if I'm just gonna say that there is a book out there that many people, the people around me are, no one said a bad thing about it. It's called Why We Sleep. So if you're into reading these type, or if you're into the talk we had today, Why We Sleep basically describes everything in a much better way I can because it was written by someone that studies this stuff, and they already have their PhD. I'm still working on getting mine. Um, but if it's very interesting to you, you can always read Why We Sleep. If you're interested in the research that I was mentioning, connect with me on Discord and I can get you connected with the actual science if you want that. As a reminder to connect with me, you're looking at Discord. That's the best way. So here on the actual Twitch page let me actually pull up the Twitch here. On my actual Twitch page, you can see on my about. Let me make sure that this is muted. Okay. On my actual Twitch page, you can see the about section. In my about section, you'll see this join us. If you click that join us, it'll send you an invite to the Discord. And in the Discord, this is where we can chat, right? We have all these cool channels. We can even join a voice chat. So sometimes during live streams, I've been in this channel and we've heard from our members or from other scientists I've invited here. But here we can chat, or you can send me a personal message on Discord, but we can connect through the Discord. But as always, you can always chat with me here as well during live streams in the chat. Awesome. Well, I hope everyone has a really great weekend. Thank you for joining me. Thanks SPSS for doing all those cool calculations of water. I'm probably going to be doing some gaming streams here soon. I got busy with some stuff in real life, both grad school and personal life. My weddings are coming up, so that's also keeping me quite busy. Anyways, thank you everybody for joining me today. When I say weddings, I actually got married a little bit ago, but I haven't been able to celebrate the actual weddings due to the pandemic. And so we're finally going to have the party. And so that party required a lot of planning and logistics. And so I'm a little bit busy right now with grad school and that, but we're also going to do some gaming streams. Anyways, thank you everybody for listening. If you're listening to a recorded version of this, you're a champion. Thank you so much. It just continues to motivate me to just keep doing these things because sometimes it's hard, right? I'm a really busy person. But seeing you all here, especially people who come and chat as well, really motivates me. Like, you know what? Let's do it for them because this is something that's very cool and I want to keep it going. And then in the middle of doing it, I'm like, yeah, I really like doing this. I get that self-positive reinforcement. Like, I really like doing this. This is a lot of fun, and I do have a lot of fun doing this. So thank you, everybody, and I look forward to doing gaming streams. And Taco Tuesday is gonna happen next Tuesday. Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Day. We're on PDT now, but now we voted to stay at that time. So 6 p.m. Pacific Coast time, whatever that may be. I don't know what we're on now. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. Shark Party colors. I'm gonna start wearing this way more often. That's cool. I like it. It kind of matches the vibe of Shark Party. Anyway, have a great weekend, everybody. Look forward to gaming streams and Taco Tuesday. Thank you, everybody.